In the small, tight-knit town of Rosewood, there was a beloved local restaurant called Martha's Table. It was a modest place where the community gathered for celebrations, family dinners, and casual meals. Martha, the owner, was known for her warm smile, her homey cooking, and her ability to create dishes that made you feel like you were eating in your grandmother's kitchen. The restaurant had become a staple of the town, its charm woven into the fabric of daily life. Martha was always experimenting with recipes, trying to make something new to keep things fresh. One fall, after a particularly successful summer season, she felt inspired to create a new dish, something bold, something unexpected. She'd been experimenting with local ingredients, a mix of herbs, spices, and unique vegetables grown in the town's farms. Martha loved to surprise her regulars with seasonal dishes, and she decided this would be her most exciting yet. With a flourish, she introduced the Rosewood Harvest Stew to the menu, a dish she promised would be unlike anything they'd tasted before. The stew was thick, hearty, and had a rich, deep flavor. It featured an array of vegetables, meats, and a secret ingredient, an exotic herb she had come across while reading an old recipe book in the back of the restaurant. It was called Vita root, a plant said to have healing properties, though it was little known outside of the region. At first, the dish was a hit. It was served piping hot with a side of Martha's famous fresh bread, and the customers couldn't get enough. Regulars praised the stew's richness, its depth of flavor, and how it made them feel full but light at the same time. Children loved the taste too. It was savory with just a touch of sweetness, and it became the talk of the town. Martha beamed with pride as her restaurant filled every evening, customers eager to try the new dish. However, as the days passed, something strange began to happen. A few of the town's children, who had eaten the stew during family dinners, began to complain of stomach aches. At first it seemed like a coincidence. Maybe they had eaten too much or something else had caused it. But then the complaints grew louder. People started feeling strange. Some reported dizziness, others nausea, and a few began to collapse in the streets, clutching their stomachs. Within hours, the situation spiraled out of control. The town was in panic. Doctors were overwhelmed, unable to identify what was causing the sudden wave of illness. Emergency services were dispatched, but by then it was too late. Children, parents, grandparents, one by one, they began to fall ill. Those who had eaten the stew were hit the hardest. The entire town was gripped with fear as more and more people were taken to the hospital, some of them slipping into unconsciousness. A few hours later, the first fatalities were reported. Families who had shared the meal, some of whom had children, were among the victims. By morning, half of Rosewood's population was gone, and the town was left in chaos. The streets were eerily quiet as the disease spread, the cause still unknown. Word spread like wildfire. The new dish at Martha's Table was the culprit. When authorities finally arrived to investigate, they discovered that the Vita root had been the source of the poison. The herb, though once thought to have healing properties, was actually toxic when prepared incorrectly. Its effects were slow but deadly, causing irreversible damage to the liver and kidneys. In large quantities, especially when combined with the other ingredients, it created a deadly cocktail that had killed dozens in a matter of hours. The town's worst nightmare had come true. A recipe meant to delight had instead caused catastrophe. Martha, devastated by the outcome, was inconsolable. She'd only wanted to bring something new and exciting to her community, but instead, she had unknowingly unleashed tragedy. She was arrested, though it was clear that her intentions had been innocent. Still, the damage had been done, and the town of Rosewood would never be the same again. The story of Martha's Table became a tragic legend, a cautionary tale whispered by the few who survived. Some blamed her, others blamed the herb itself, but no one could shake the haunting memory of how something as simple as a meal, something that had once brought the town together, could bring it to its knees. The once bustling restaurant stood abandoned, its windows dark and its doors shut. It was said that on quiet nights, if you walked past, you could still smell the faint scent of cooking, as though the memories of those lost lingered in the walls of the old building. And for those who had survived, the taste of the stew, once a symbol of Martha's creativity, became a bitter reminder of a day when food, the very thing that brought them together, had torn their community apart.